Hello everybody, welcome to PantheraTV Live. We're just getting started here. It's nice to see some familiar faces and some new ones. And by faces I mean names. Today on our PantheraTV Live, we're going to be talking with scientist Vanessa Herranz Muñoz about fishing cats, which is one of the 33 species of small cats that a lot of people maybe don't know about. But we're going to learn about today. So let's get her in here. Hello from the Panthera. I hope you're all staying safe down there. If you're not aware of what's happening down in Brazil's Pantanal, there are unfortunately quite a few wildfires going through and burning up some pristine wildcat habitat, especially for jaguars. And you can learn more about this through panthera.org/wild-crisis. And here we have Vanessa. Doo-doo. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, my pleasure.
So this is PantheraTV Live, where we talk to the experts in wildcats, and our audience gets to join. So why don't we start off by having you introduce yourself and how you got into conservation and how you got working with Panthera.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. I hope I can tell you interesting stories about the fishing cat. I'll tell you about me then. I was actually fascinated with wildcats when I was only 2 years old. My mom took me to the zoo, and I was just taken aback by the tigers. I was so intrigued, that she couldn't take me anywhere else after that. I would just cry and cry on the plastic horses. I just wanted big cats. And by the time I was 12, I was just reading everything I could about wildlife and especially cats. And then one day in the library, I saw the clouded leopard. And I was just completely aghast. It was like an enlightenment sort of experience. And I decided there and then that that's what I would do with my life. I would go and study the rare cats of Southeast Asia. So after that, I thought, well, I'm going to have to get really quite ready to do this. Yeah, because I'm in Spain. It's really, really very far away. It was also like the farthest place in the world I could think of, we call it the Contintinas. So far away you can't even imagine. So what I did, by the time I was 14, 15, I was an activist. I was defending forests, planting trees, getting into recycling, talking about global warming, all of these things that, people are picking up more and more today. And then I moved to the UK and I studied zoology there in different universities. I had the great opportunity of study and work at the same time, which today is really difficult for people. So that's a real shame. And after that, I moved back to Spain and I had the opportunity to have more hands-on experiences. So I worked in rescue centers, I worked in zoos, I got to look after European wildcats, lynx, ocelots. We created an enclosure for ocelots that was made to measure to give them as much environmental enrichment as possible. So every day we would hide the food in lots of different little creeps and crevices in the enclosure so that we would have a little bit of entertainment, even within those captive conditions. And after that, I started my own little NGO because I thought in this particular case that zoos might be able to do more for conservation. So I tried to work on that for a while, and eventually that landed me helping to write guidance at the European level on how zoos should contribute to conservation, which is written in the European Directive of Zoos. It's very simple, it's very short, but basically says that any zoo should contribute to conservation. So we helped write, much longer guidance on how they could do this. At the same time, I did my master's in Spain, and I learned everything I could about camera trapping and biodiversity conservation and research and all of these techniques. And after finishing the project with the EU, my plan was to just come to Southeast Asia and do what I always wanted to do. But I was really lucky, and I actually got a job here in Cambodia, helping the Center for Biodiversity Conservation of the Royal University of Phnom Penh, helping the students in the masters with their thesis, and also in helping them with research. And one of those projects was looking for fishing cat in Cambodia,
okay.
Which was one of the reasons that I got the job, because I was so enthusiastic about it. And then we went out to different places around Cambodia, and we found the fishing cats, and that was in 2015. So that's more or less how I got here.
So now you work with Panthera doing your own fishing cat study, right?
Yes. After that, with a group of colleagues from the CBC, Cambodian graduates in conservation, we started the Clat-Try Cambodian Fishing Cat Project. We wanted to study and protect this population of fishing cat that we found in the mangroves, and to try and find more throughout Cambodia. So that's when we applied to Panthera and got support from the Small Cat Action Fund, and started camera trapping in the mangroves and working with the communities to protect fishing cat. And then ever since, I've applied 2 more times and always got support from Panthera.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project and exactly what you do to study this? Because it's a pretty elusive cat, right? It can be hard to study.
Yes, it's very hard to study. Yeah, the area where we work is it's got some parts of pure mangrove that is very, very difficult to access, and we don't even know really how the fishing cat is using this kind of habitat. It might be going around in the drier spells when the water's low and it's going on the ground, or it might be going on the really tall still roots. So we've been putting cameras throughout this habitat to try and find them. But pretty early on, when we started camera trapping in 2017, we started to find spots where the fishing cats were visiting regularly, and some of them were actually not too difficult to access and to find once we had an idea. They were using some land platforms to do marking and to do their rituals, to leave messages to each other. So we got really nice videos of both males and females, like smelling each other hormones and doing this little dance that the fishing cat does with the paws like that to leave the messages, and then smelling everything with using the vomeronasal organ that's on top of the palate, so they make this face like and get all the hormones. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I do like your profile.
Okay, we're definitely going to need to get some videos from you of this to share with our users, because that sounds fascinating. Somebody is asking questions about conflict between fishing cats and locals, and you mentioned that is part of your project, right?
Yeah. One thing that we noticed from the start when we started talking to people in the mangroves was that there was a certain degree of conflict, because people live mostly off fishing. And the fishing cat would find the nets full of fish, destroy them, and get those fish. So the fishermen are not just losing that catch; they're using their tools. So those losses could be costly back in the day. So they would just set up a trap and try and catch the fishing cat the next day and kill it. So in 2015, they told us that this happened once. And when we went back in 2017, they also told us that a fishing cat had died on a snare in a similar way. But at the same time, in this particular area, the fishing cats have been really lucky. That's one of the reasons why they survived there. And it's because people have started switching to catching crabs in this like square crab traps, and the fishing cats can't break into those, and the fishermen get more money for the crabs. Also, when we got there in 2017, we actually went to all the main villages in the remote areas of the mangroves, and we had awareness workshops explaining how unique it was that there was still fishing cat here, and how important it is to keep a healthy ecosystem, and explaining to people that they should be proud that the fishing cat still living there, listening to their stories. Many people had interesting stories about the fishing cats in the area, and also explaining the law in Cambodia, and especially in a protected area, it is illegal to hunt wildlife. So we also made the point of you be doing an illegal activity. And ever since, at least we haven't heard of fishing cats getting killed in our study area. And the local people seem to be quite happy with our research and our work. We've continued working with them, showing them our results, our videos. They're very interested to see all the wildlife that's right around them, and they don't actually get to see so often because these animals just hide really well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the work is ongoing, but at least in the very deep mangroves, is going quite well.
That's great. Do you see this as something that you can apply, or scientists in general can apply to other parts of the fishing cats range or other small cats in the region, these techniques that you've used?
I think it's going to change slightly in every country and in every local area, because people's motivations are different, people's livelihoods are different, but at the heart of it is people. It's talking to people, managing to communicate with them, managing to find a way to solve those conflicts, whether they are economic or different kind. In some countries, they are really scared of fishing cats and just kill them just because they are around. This, I believe it happens in Bangladesh in some parts. In other parts, there might be even ritual killings of fishing cats and other small carnivores. The difficulty with conflict is that it's very rooted in the local conditions. So at the end of the day, you need teams that, you have maybe a zoologist like me studying the species and how to recover it, but you also have people that are willing to listen and to be with the communities to solve their problems. So people experts, really.
That's a great point, and that's something that Panthera likes to stress a lot, and that we do around the world. We think that, we can't just come into someone's country and start trying to save their cats without any kind of cooperation, because in reality, it's going to take all of us working together, like you said, to address these. So besides human conflict, what are the other threats to fishing cats?
Well, here in Cambodia is general poaching. Like I was mentioning, in the area where I work, the fishing cats are pretty safe in the deep mangroves, but as soon as you come out of that onto mainland back mangroves areas that would be suitable for them, I can't find them, and that's because there's been indiscriminate snaring to a huge degree in all of Cambodia and all of Southeast Asia. We support law enforcement so that stops, besides working with communities, because that's feeding other sorts of black markets. Like in Cambodia and in Vietnam and other countries, there's still people that want to eat wildlife and want to eat rare wildlife because they may have powers. We think that the fishing cat can be a target. It's not a huge market, and it's not a very direct target in Cambodia, but that can happen sometimes. And in other areas, people are generally so poor that need to hunt to eat. Mm-hmm. So there are parts of Cambodia where that's still happening. Other threats in Southeast Asia is shrimp farming. Industrial shrimp farming is destroying the fishing cat habitat. And in general, in the fishing cat range, habitat conversion and habitat destruction, the really accelerated loss of wetlands is what's also killing fishing cats.
Hmm. And someone just asked about feral dogs. Is that a common threat to fishing cats?
In some places, yeah, it can be a threat. I mean, even where we work, many people keep dogs to defend themselves from fishing cats because they are scared. Um, so there can be fights, and if there are too many dogs, they will kill fishing cats. We've been told that's happened where we work. Luckily, where we work, dogs are usually around people, or maybe people take them with them to the mangroves every now and again. But in other parts of the range, if the feral dogs are just living completely wild in the same habitats, they can pose a serious threat.
So, I mean, fishing cats are technically categorized as small cats, but small is a relative term compared to, like a tiger. How big are these creatures?
Well, fishing cats are not so small, and people get quite impressed when we talk about the size. It's about 10 to 15 kilograms, so it's like a medium-sized dog. People
Okay.
might have the size of a bobcat or a lynx more in mind, like that, but more bulky,
More
like
bulky.
beefed up. Um, and they have like a smallish head and roundy ears, so really really well adapted for swimming. Here in Cambodia we found a dead individual that was actually 17 kilos, so that's already a pretty serious cat.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that I didn't even realize how big they were until I started really seeing the images, and you're like, okay, I can see why people might have a fear of them. Although we know as scientists that the cats are more afraid of people, I think, in general.
Yeah, we don't know of any fishing cat attack on a human. So here, because the name in Cambodian, in Khmer, is Kla Trai, which means Kla is a name for a tiger or a general beast. It has the infusion of a big, scary animal. And Trai is fish, so it's basically the fishing tiger. So that connection with the tiger makes people already a little bit afraid, even just talking about it. And they have a little bit of fearsome sort of fame. There is this old anecdote from the 1800, naturalists and people that were taking down all sorts of stories on wildlife, that a male fishing cat was captured and put on a cage next to a female leopard, and the fishing cat broke the partition and killed the female leopard.
Is that a real story?
Yeah. I've read it with my own eyes in the oldie document.
Oh, like so a very long time ago. Okay. I
Yeah,
guess
very long time ago.
it would be scary for people who didn't know. So that's another interesting question. What other cats live in the same range areas as fishing cats, and how are those interactions nowadays?
Um, what other cats are left in some areas, like here in Cambodia or in India or in Bangladesh? In many areas there could be fishing cat and tiger in the same areas.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as we know, fishing cats probably just completely avoid tigers.
Hmm.
In some areas, there are smaller cats nearby, like here in Cambodia, leopard cats. They're the size of a domestic cat, but with a beautiful coat of a leopard. Um, and they share range in many different countries, and we generally see them kind of avoiding each other.
Hmm.
In some parts, they might be around the same area. It might depend of how the resources are. If they are very concentrated, like a fish pond in Thailand, for example, they may have both around, but usually they avoid each other. Um, yeah, as far as I know, it's rare to get several cat species in the exact same place at the exact same time.
Hmm.
There is a level of avoidance by size.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what is it about fishing cats that you love? What is it that makes studying them so particular? I mean, they're definitely unique creatures.
Well, I love the same thing that fishing cats love, which is being around water, being in these beautiful freshwater areas. We get to go into creeks. I use that photo for this interview because just to
Sorry,
moving
I had to
around.
plug my phone. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, well, the fact that we get to go around in boats and kayaks all the time, and sometimes just accidentally fall in these crystalline waters when it's really hot, and get to see these beautiful freshwater, brackish water habitats. I think it's fantastic. The places where fishing can live are like no other. There are other areas here in Cambodia. There are also flooded forests, and you have this, fantastic, gorgeous trees coming out of the water. It's very different to any other type of habitat, and I really enjoy being around there.
So I guess that's where they got their name, the fishing cat, because they like fishing for aquatic prey, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be around water, around freshwater bodies, and in areas that are actually really full of biodiversity because water always attracts all sorts of wildlife.
What do you wish more people knew about fishing cats?
Oh, they're so cool. There's so many things. I mean, there is all the, cool physical adaptations for swimming. The feet are slightly webbed, like other cats also have webbed feet, but their nails are semi-retractile, like the cheetah, I suppose, so that they can hook the fish better. We don't know exactly why this would be. They have waterproof coats, 2 layers. Um, they have a very short tail that they might be using as a rudder to swim in the water. Yeah, the cool physical adaptations to swimming are really amazing. But I would also like people to know like the oldest news and the latest news about fishing cats.
Okay.
Uh, the oldest news that we know of is when I first started studying the fishing cat here in Cambodia. Right after placing camera traps in one of the areas of interest, I went to visit Angkor Wat because that's what everyone has to do in Cambodia, is the incredible temple complex. And all of the temples are full of really amazing carvings, so and full of animals. So I was just looking at them with in detail, really curious about what they had there, and I think I found a fishing cat.
Wow.
Yeah. There is one of the walls on Bayon Temple that is known for depicting everyday life. It's a very long wall with all sorts of scenes of hunting, cooking, parades, and then there are these boats full of people on top that are fishing and doing things. And under the boat, you have fish, you have crocodiles, and you have this cat that's got a long body, short paws, short tail, and is swimming. So I think we found a fishing cat in Angkor Wat, in a building that dates back to 1100 or so.
That is impressive.
So back in the day, fishing cats were really well known in Cambodia. They were an everyday sight of the fishermen. So that's the old news. And the most recent news, or the most modern news, come from Sri Lanka. The Urban Fishing Cat Project that is very active on Instagram, and it has amazing videos and photos and live and all sorts. They realized that there were fishing cats living in Colombo City. So urban fishing cats that one day you might turn around and see this huge cat just sitting on the roof, just looking at you like Anya, the main researcher, happened to find ones. And they realized this because some highly priced, like very expensive fish were suddenly being stolen from this
Oh,
from this pond in a garden. And the owners just put a security cam there. Who's coming here to steal our fish? And what they saw was there was a fishing cat coming there to steal fish every night, just jumping there, taking away the really expensive fish, happily to eat somewhere else. So I think that's really exciting. That means that fishing cats can be an adaptable species, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking after well-conserved wetlands.
yeah. And for those of you interested in the Urban Fishing Cat Project, they're in our chat right now. Hello, and we have follow them on Instagram, so we can link back to them for those of you who want to follow them as well. It's a great project, a great group. Um, but in general, I think small cat conservation is so fascinating because mostly we think about tigers, lions, jaguars, but there are 33 species of small cat, and we don't know that much about a lot of them. And so the conservation around them can be difficult. Why do you think that is? And what recommendations do you have for small cat conservation?
It's very difficult because, like we mentioned, they're very elusive, very difficult to know where they are, what they do, what resources they depend on. So it's very difficult to target those conservation measures to the specific species. And it's also very difficult because they're very unknown. There's 33 species of small cats that get less than 1% of the funding, and the remaining 99 goes to the big cats. So with such little funding, it's very difficult to have people on the ground looking at all the different species and have enough activities and have the people studying the cats and the people working with people that is necessary. And it's not so attractive and spectacular for big NGOs that go for flagship species like ecosystem umbrellas. When I do think it's necessary to at least try to pay attention to the small cats as well, because small cats and small predators in general have been persecuted to a very, very large degree all over the world, and their populations might be decreasing before our eyes. So I think we need more resources and just paying more attention to each and every one of them and what problems they might be facing.
Right. And I think also a lot of people forget that just because they're maybe smaller in size doesn't mean they don't play a crucial role in their ecosystem dynamics.
Yeah, of course. Animals like the fishing cat is present, is telling you that the ecosystem is healthy, that there is a good level of resources, and they're playing their part in the ecosystem. But at the end of the day, I believe in conservation for the sake of conservation. I believe we should preserve life for the sake of life, not because it's serving a function.
That's definitely one of the beliefs about conservation and about these cats. And I think it's so nice to see someone who has so much passion for a specific species, especially when that species is, not necessarily getting the attention they deserve. I think they're really cool. When I first started learning about them, it's here when I was working with Panthera, I thought it was especially interesting how they target aquatic prey. And somebody was asking, are they a generalist or a specialist? How would you categorize what they eat?
I think it might also depend on the area and the country. I think in some places they might be more adaptable and catch percentages of rodents, birds, fish, depending on what they can find around. And in other areas, because they have great fishing resources, like say in the mangroves where I work, they probably eat mostly just fish and crabs. But they are cats. All cats, in a way, have general similarities. They're going to be good hunters. They're going to use the stalking techniques. So if they need to, they can hunt rodents, aquatic birds, frogs. They have great flexibility for prey. But my hunch is that they'll have their preferences.
Yeah. Another question that I saw pop up on our chat was the territories of males compared to females. Do we have enough data to speak on that?
No, no, we don't really have enough. There's a few of us. There's me. There's someone else in Thailand. There's a few people in India and in Sri Lanka and pretty much everyone. We're all trying to get to know the home range or density. These more specific details of our local populations, but it's really quite complicated. We can have an estimate. It's not very different to other cats that maybe you have a male pair, 2, 3, 4 females, depending on, again, the density at each specific area. From my experience, but without enough data, I can say I've seen one male fishing cat with 3 females around the same territories, more or less.
And that just highlights the importance of getting more funding and more projects because we have so little information about these cats and so many of the small cats that how do you even build a conservation plan for a species that you don't know that much about?
Exactly.
So what's next for your research or in general research with fishing cats? What do we have in the future?
Um, well, for my research in the mangroves, I'm really happy because we're going to be working with Flora and Fauna International on a larger project for protection of the marine and coastal areas. So we should be able to do much more work on fishing cat and on conservation in general around the mangroves. And so that's giving us the opportunity to start moving on to other parts of Cambodia. And we want to start going to the Tonle Sap Great Lake. It's the largest inland fisheries, inland wetland in all of Southeast Asia. It's a
Oh,
gigantic lake. Yeah, it's a really amazing place. Gigantic lake that in the wet season, the water comes down from the Mekong with such strength that when it gets to Phnom Penh, instead of continuing down to Vietnam to the delta, the Mekong turns around and goes back up to the lake, and the lake fills up twice the size. And this is a huge area of flooded forest.
mm-hmm.
Uh, or, we've always have thought that there is fishing cat, but there is very little actual evidence. We don't know where they are. There's been camera trapping in very small areas, but pretty much everywhere else is really quite unknown. So in the next few months, we want to start going there because this area is also in deep ecological trouble. This amazing flood pulse, that's the process that I just explained, where the lake doubles, hasn't happened this year. Not enough water has come down the Mekong because of hydropower dams farther up the river, and it hasn't turned around. So the dynamics of this ecosystem might be changing radically. So we want to get there as soon as possible to see if fishing cats are still there and what can we do for conservation and for people in this area that's heading into a very difficult road.
That brings up another issue, which is, changing climate and increased habitat disturbance and how that changes how you study and conserve these cats. So it sounds like you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Yes, I think so. But very happy work.
So our Small Cats program director, Dr. Wong, is in the chat. Hi, Ming, and he wants to know about the Fish and Cat Conservation Alliance.
Yes, that's another place to get lots of information about fishing cat. We used to be the Fishing Cat Working Group. Now we're an official organization, Fishing Cat Conservation Alliance, and we're sharing information from all the projects throughout the range, images and camera traps and conservation work from all the range countries. And we're very excited about this because now we can actually channel donations and fund and larger funds and applications to all of these projects in the range countries. So it gives us the opportunity to do more work, to reach more people, and we're really excited about this. Please, everyone, follow Fishing Cat Conservation Alliance.
Yeah, I will try to include a link when I post this video so that we can all stay up to date. So kind of to wrap this up, what is the most important thing people can do to protect fishing cats or to make a difference for wildcats in general?
To protect fishing cats specifically, there is one issue that anyone in the world can pay attention to, and it's shrimp. Just have a look at your shrimp, have a look at your fish, where it comes from. Industrial shrimp farming can be very damaging directly to fishing cats. The other thing that everyone can do for small cats and for wildlife in general, anywhere in the world, is making sure that they vote for people that want to conserve nature, that want to turn around the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis that we're into. We need to pay more attention to our politics, all of us, everywhere, and make sure that we go in the right direction and we stop giving power to psychopathic salesmen. We need to vote.
Mm. That's something we try to stress too, especially in these times where politics are kind of ramping up, that everyone, it might sometimes feel powerless for us who don't live anywhere near wildcats or don't have any way of physically helping them. We can all help wildcats with our vote, with our purchasing power, and most importantly, with our voices to spread the word about their threats, about their conservation, about the good programs and the people who are out there and that need our help, like you.
Thank you.
So, Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today. This was super informative and really exciting. I'm really glad we got to highlight the fishing cat. We do have a blog on the fishing cat that I'm going to share as well for people who want more in-depth information about them with some cool infographics and pictures and some more details on the specifics of them. And we look forward to hearing more about your work as you go on.
Sure. Well, thanks a lot for inviting me, Jamie. This has been a pleasure, and thank you everyone for listening. And yeah, we'll keep
Everyone,
talking.
make sure that you follow panthera.org. You can sign up for our emails, follow us on social media, and you'll be able to keep up to date with everything on fishing cats to tigers as well. So, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.